can't see you down here over this thing. On the 28th, which is what, 2 weeks from now?
Yeah.
3 weeks? 2 weeks from now. It's on a Sunday evening. Don't come in the morning. Come in the morning, but don't come to that in the morning. In the evening, it'll probably be around 7 o'clock, something like that. It'll be announced, but we're having a big fundraising event for Unity in Ashland. It's going to feature our own Reverend Norman Nakai Burton and Neil Donald Walsh. It's going to be a conversation with both of them. It'll be an open mic, so bring your questions that you maybe have always wanted to ask. There will be lots of music. Jane will be one of the musicians, Heather Hutton, Richard Williams, and Neil's wife may read some of her poetry. It's just going to be a really wonderful evening. So we want you to support us because this is a fundraiser. You'll see flyers out about it. I believe the cost will be anywhere from $15 to $1,713.40. At least 15, because it's really for us to help keep going in the community. So it's going to be a fun event. You'll see flyers soon, and tell your friends. Tell people you don't even like, because you may like them once they're there. So we're excited to have David Gabriel and Richard Williams on music today. And are we going straight to the music? Yes. Let's go straight to the music. Give them a hand.
Yes. Richard Williams, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. He is here all week. I don't know about you, but the beautiful music that Richard was playing right before the service started sort of accentuated my own sleepiness. So, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. You're beautiful. But instead of a sleepy feeling right now, what I'd like to encourage you to allow to be engingered through you, did I say that politically correct enough? God got us, is please stand if you are able and willing. And we're gonna do a kind of a crunchy version of I release and let go. I wrote this down, I relapse and let go, but that's with yourself. You do that. Ready? Here we go. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. All right.
Sit down, the people next to you just She should have a mic.
I'm glad you're here.
You have it? Yeah, get it. We have a mic for you, Norma. A handheld? Would you prefer the handheld or the handheld?
Yeah. I couldn't do, I realized I
Hello?
couldn't play the drums at the same time.
Oh, yeah. It's great to be here at Hidden Springs with you. I'm glad you found it. And I'm glad you're all in your socks. It's kind of a humbling thing. And today's topic is about servant leadership. So it's about humility. And so I decided to wear these socks. They kind of remind me of in Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West. When the house came down on her, they were kind of like this, weren't they? But I'm rechristening them. These are Good Witch socks. I'm glad you're here. And we've got a special topic today that I haven't talked directly on this topic, I don't think, ever before at Unity. And yet it's one that's dear to my heart for my whole life. The topic of being a servant leader. And what does that mean? That strange combination. I want to start off with I'm going to be quoting from the Tao Te Ching a lot today because it's the ancient truth that's existed and survived all through the ages about how to be a good leader. And so, do without doing. Act without action. Savor the flavorless. Treat the small as large and the few as many. I want to end on that part of it, even though it goes on. Treat the small as large and the few as many. I think we've been doing that in a way at Unity in Ashland for a long time. We have been valuing our gathering over many, many years and knowing that it doesn't matter how big or small it is, although it's been wonderful at times when it's swelled and we trust it at times when it's smaller, because there's something potent that we are doing and experiencing here. And way back through history, the Tao said it doesn't matter how big or how small. It's about a certain kind of power that we're working with and honing here. So I'm so happy that you're a part of this, and I know that you feel that. And we're going to be talking more deeply about it and celebrating that today. What's our next song, David?
It is prayers.
Okay. Right before the prayer of St. Francis. I'm going to have a St. Francis come up here. And it's hard to get up. And Anya always tunes in every week to when she hears the sermon topic and magically comes forth with a poem that really relates. So here's the beautiful one that she found for this week.
This is I Have Come to This Earth by Hafiz, but it's been translated by Susan Griffin, and it has a very different take. I have come to this earth, hoping to see our weapons arrested midair, even if we are possessed by rage, because we know finally, we know that there is one body to wound, and this is his body, Christ, the beloved. I have come to this earth to see all of us move through this miraculous life together, as we become greater souls made of ecstasy and light, part of him, dancing with him. I have come to this world to hear every song that has been sung since we all began in the womb of heaven. Songs that fly or swim or gallop, songs from the hills, the trees, women, children, rivers, rocks, flutes, songs made of gold, gems, flame. Every song the heart can cry with such high feeling once we know we are a part of God, and that everything else except drinking in this sun will leave us thirsty. I have come into the world for this, to find among us women and men so loving they would rather die than utter one cruel word. So honest, they live in union with him. His promise, our hope. I have come into this world to see our weapons laid down, even at the highest point of rage, because we know now there is only one body we can wound. There is only one body we can wound.
A life lived with an open heart makes every day a miracle. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. Where there's sadness, joy. Where there's sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as consoled, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it's in giving that we receive, and it's in pardoning that we ourselves are pardoned, and it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Beautiful. Our two texts that we're drawing from today are the Tao Te Ching and then also the Beatitudes that Jesus spoke. So here's the one from the Beatitudes. The verse is short, and it is, "Blessed are the poor, for yours is the kingdom of heaven." And the wonderful Aramaic translation always makes us think. Here it is, several renditions of it. In tune with the cosmos are you who feel completely dissolved. Your new form appears by the visioning power of the One. Suited for the divine purpose are you when you are exhausted. Your power to stand then arises from the first cause. In the right time and place are you whose sense of self has become less. To you belongs the integrity of the divine I can. Blessed are you who hold on to very little. Yours is the wealth and the rule of your original divine image. And now would those of you who have asked to read from the Tao Te Ching come forward and read yours? Both of you at the same time.
Heaven's lead. The best captain doesn't rush in front. The fiercest fighter doesn't bluster. The big winner isn't competing. The best boss takes a low footing. This is the power of non-competition. This is the right use of ability. To follow heaven's lead has always been the best way.
Can you keep your soul in its body, hold fast to the One, and so learn to be whole? Can you center your energy, be soft, tender, and so learn to be a baby? Can you keep the deep waters still and clear, so it reflects without blurring? Can you love people and run things, and do so by not doing? Opening, closing the gate of heaven, can you be like a bird with her nestlings? Piercing bright through the cosmos, can you know by not knowing? To give birth, to nourish, to bear and not to own, to act and not lay claim, to lead and not to rule. This is mysterious power.
So the next song we're going to sing is about this opening that this verse from the Tao talks about. Opening and closing the gate of heaven is your heart. Can you be like a bird with her nestlings as you tenderly open and close the gate of heaven inside of you? And that will lead you through to the only thing that really matters, which is you're only here for God. So somehow our heart is the secret to opening and closing the gate of heaven. Right here is where it happens. So use this next song as a prayer, as a cleansing prayer of your own heart. If there's anything in the way of you trusting into that opening and closing in your life right now, with whatever is happening in your life, use this song as a prayer, as a beseeching of the divine, as a stepping into the light and opening your heart in trust to this kind of power flowing through you, this great, vulnerable, humble power.
I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I'm opening, I'm opening, I'm opening, I'm opening, I'm opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I'm opening, I'm opening, I'm opening, I am opening, I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I'm opening, I'm opening, I'm opening, I'm opening, I'm opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening, I am opening, I am opening, I am opening, I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening, I am opening, I am opening to in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening, I am
Are you a servant leader? Servant leader? It's both a philosophy and a set of leadership practices. There's a definition that goes like this. Traditional leadership generally involves the accumulation and exercise of power by one at the top of a pyramid. That's traditional leadership. By comparison, the servant leader shares power, puts the needs of others first, and helps people develop and perform as highly as possible. So you get the gist of the difference here. I bet this might be true of everybody sitting in this room, but at a young age, I looked at the worldly world powers and the way that it was set up, and I knew that I was here for a different calling. There was something else calling my soul. And from the time I was pretty little, I remember feeling something moving inside of me to help other people. There were kids in our neighborhood who were in foster care, and I just had a heart's desire to try to be kind to them and help them. And we lived in a Native American neighborhood, and lots of times the Native American kids got picked on, and I had a heart for being with them and wanting to help them have a better life. So I just want you to think about your life for a minute, and think back in time to your life, and think about as a small child what you were drawn to, who you were drawn to help, and whose life touched your heartstrings. And then as we get older in our teenage years, we're looking around for something to identify with that's larger than ourselves, like a passion in life that we can have be our work in the world. And we try to find something that's passionate that we can dedicate ourselves to. Maybe it's a family life, you know. Maybe it's making a good family, or some kind of work in the world, or maybe it's following a spiritual teacher. What was it for you? For me, what came along in the early 70s, which was a radical time, you know, but it was a time of, you know, the love happening in parks and everywhere. But another thing that was going on was what was called then the Jesus movement. And it was a powerful movement where all the hippie kids were getting involved, and they were wild and wonderful. And I found out about pockets of them, and they were dancing and singing and jumping up and down and praising and wearing blue jeans that had millions of holes in them. And I thought, wow, there's spiritual energy there, you know, and I want to be part of that. It was a big movement that took place all around the country, and it turned the adults around on their heads. And out of that movement came what was called the charismatic movement, that was a calling of people out of all the different denominations, from like Catholics and Episcopals and Lutherans and Methodists and whole bunches of people, and even Jews and atheists, and everybody started coming together in these amazing, powerful, big, giant gatherings of people affirming to one another that we're only here for God. And it was tremendously powerful. And maybe some of you were involved in some version of this spiritual movement that happened in the 70s. And then always what happens, it seems like, is that a backlash comes, and the worldly powers that be, see this powerful movement, and then they want to take it over and make sure that it's controlled in certain ways. So don't you know that happened in the beginning in Jesus' times, right? It was a really powerful movement that was going on of the people. And pretty shortly, the powers that be wanted to squelch it and squelch the leader and leaders of it. And so that tends to be a pattern on planet Earth. So in the 80s, governmental administration came in that was pretty squelching of the true power, but kind of co-opting. And I don't know if you all know this, but the charismatic movement that was very diverse and non-sectarian and even cut across religious boundaries. I mean, it was really even going to India and Korea and all over the world, and incorporating Buddhism and Hinduism, and everything was getting incorporated into this amazing spiritual movement. But it got truncated into what became then in the 80s the evangelical Christian right wing. And I was very intimately involved in that shift because my family got taken up in that shift. And I was shocked and saddened by it. So then my spirit was looking for another place to plug in, and I had a high desire to go to the top of the religious world, and so I thought Harvard Divinity School. And so I got into Harvard Divinity School. And to me, at first I thought, this is the best of the best, this is where I can really become a good leader of spiritual organizations. And after I was there for a while, I realized it was not a good place for me, necessarily. And after a year, I left and was looking for a true movement of the people, because it didn't serve me at that time anyway to be in what they called the ivory tower and to be separated off. And so I searched and searched, and I was taken in by the battered women's movement. It was a movement of men and women who were determined to end violence in the homes. I'm looking over there at you guys. You can stay in the service if you want to, or go whenever you would like to. Yeah, but if you want to go, that would be fine. Blessings. Yeah. So through the late 70s and 80s, I was involved in this tremendous movement in our country that was changing everything, and it was a movement that really honored the voices of the least of these, because we as people that weren't battered knew that we had to take our lead from the ones who were battered, because you know why? They knew how to survive. They knew how to survive, and they taught us. And so when we set up how shelters were set up, and when we set up all the regulations and everything, that how they would be run, we totally took our lead from them. And it was a life and death matter every day and every night. And so we had to be very efficient and very good at what we did, because lives were at stake. And we also had to be very egalitarian. We didn't have to be, but we knew we needed to be egalitarian, because what the society would call the least voices were the most important voices to listen to. So that harkens me back to St. Francis of Assisi. During my later graduate school years, when I went to the Graduate Theological Union, it was during the time when liberation theology was very popular and coming up from Central and South America. Have you heard about liberation theology? It was when the Catholic priests and all the Catholic leaders turned to the poor and said, we need to take our lead from you. And they listened to them. And as all of the forces of oppression were coming down upon people there, some of the spiritual leaders and the poor people joined together and looked back at Jesus' teachings and looked back at St. Francis of Assisi and leaders like that and said, there's knowledge here about how to tune into the poor and where our spiritual truth and power comes from. And so Leonardo Boff was one of the writers of liberation theology, and he wrote this book all about St. Francis of Assisi from the perspective of the liberation poor in Central America. So all about St. Francis, but about what was going on in Central America. And so I was fascinated with that book and read it over and over, and it's really like a guidebook for true spiritual liberation and power. And in it he says that we need to take on the rule of the minority. The rule of the minority, that's what St. Francis called it. And so in St. Francis's day, you know what he did? He took his little band of helpers every day, and they went to the leper camps, and they sat at the feet of the lepers. And they said, tell us what to do today. That's how we will change our society. So the rule of the minority. this whole idea of servant leadership, like I'm alluding to, is ancient and goes back and back through history, all the way back to Lao Tzu, which we've been reading some of the texts today. And do you know when Lao Tzu lived? Does anybody here know about the year when he lived? Yes, very good. 500 BCE. Long time ago. And this is what he said back then about the highest type of leader. The highest type of leader is one whose existence the people are barely aware of. Then the next kind of leader, the next one down, because that's the highest one, the next comes one whom the people love and praise. And then the next one down is the leader that they fear. And then next comes the one who they despise and defy. So when you are lacking in faith, others will be unfaithful to you. The sage is self-effacing and scanty of words. When his task is completed and things have been accomplished, all the people say, "We ourselves have achieved this." Interesting, huh? There's a wise man in India named Chanakya. See if I can say it right. Maybe some of you know it, but Chanakya. Chanakya. Have you ever heard of him? Very ancient leader around the same time, 400 BC. And he was the coordinator, the leader of the kingdom that actually spanned the entire subcontinent of India at that time. One kingdom. Organized. All those people. And he was a very wise leader, a servant leader. And he said, "The king or leader shall consider as good not what pleases himself, but what pleases his subjects or followers. The leader is a paid servant and enjoys the resources of the state together with the people." Now, wouldn't it be good if our leaders could affirm that and realize that? Ancient wisdom. So servant leadership can be found in many religious texts, in Islam and Christianity and Hebrew teachings. The Islamic text says the leader of a people is their servant. And from Mark 10:42, this is a oft-quoted thing that Jesus said to his followers. Jesus called them to himself and said to them, "You know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among us. Whoever desires to become great among us will be our servant. And whoever of you desires to be first shall be servant of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." So servant leadership is a timeless concept. But this phrase, servant leadership, came back into our vocabulary in the 1970s. I think the Battered Women's Movement was one of the movements, amongst others, that helped to raise up this idea of servant leadership again. But in particular, there was a book by a man named Robert Greenleaf, and it was called The Servant as Leader, published in 1970, and it became very popular, especially in settings that you wouldn't expect, like in corporations. And it says that the servant leader is a servant first. It begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve first. Then conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. The person is sharply different from the one who aspires to be a leader first. Perhaps because of the need to assuage an unusual power drive or to acquire material possessions, one aspires to be a leader first. But the servant is an extremely different type. Between them there are shadings and blendings that are part of the infinite variety of human nature, though. Somewhere between that one who aspires to be the servant first and the one who aspires to be the leader first. But the difference manifests in the care taken by the servant leader who first tries to make sure that other people's highest priority needs are being met. So the best test of a servant leader are to answer these questions. Do those you are serving grow as people because they're around you? Do they, while being served, become healthier? and wiser and freer and more autonomous and more likely to become servants? Isn't that good? And what is the effect of your leadership on the least privileged around you? Will they benefit or at least not be further deprived because of your leadership? And Robert Greenleaf recognized that organizations as well as individuals can be servant leaders. He wrote a book called The Institution as Servant. And he said, it's a credo that was set out in a way to institutions after he wrote this. And he said, this is my thesis. Caring for persons, the more able and the less able serving each other, is the rock upon which a good society is built. Whereas until recently, caring was largely person to person. Now most of it is mediated through institutions. Often large, complex, powerful, impersonal, not always competent, and often corrupt institutions. So if a better society is to be built, one that is more just and more loving, one that provides greater creative opportunity for its people, then institutions must become servant leaders. And they can do this by allowing the regenerative forces that are already there within them to deconstruct and reconstruct them. Isn't that great? And that's really, don't you think, what's happening right now in our world? The deconstruction and reconstruction of these big institutions so that they can be servant leader institutions. So let's just talk for a minute about what is a servant and what is a leader. So being the servant is simply the business of identifying and meeting the legitimate needs of the people entrusted to your care. Meeting the legitimate needs, that word's in there. And so that gives you a clue that the needs are not always the wants. Because people around us might be addicted to certain things that are their wants, but that might not be actually their needs. So a good leader needs to be able to discern what are the needs of the people. What are the true needs of the people? And a good way to tune into this is always the golden rule. Do unto them as you would have them do unto you. So what do I need? What do I deeply need? And that's a good way to tune into what the people sitting all around you might need. It's what you need. So the difference between a want and a need is about the good of the whole. So a leader tunes into what are the needs of the people that will bring about the good of the whole. Okay? So that's the servant part of it. And then the leader part of it. So when you think of a leader, what comes to your mind? You know, now I've been conditioning you to think of it this way, but in our ego-driven world, you know, a leader might come to mind like Julius Caesar or General Patton or somebody like that. Those are the kind of leaders that have been lifted up. But there have been studies done now of leadership in organizations, and one guy, Collins, was shocked to find out the two main characteristics of leaders that were identified as leaders amongst the people in organizations. Two characteristics of these kind of leaders that the people said were leaders. First, humility. That people said that they were not focused on themselves, but on others. And the second quality of them, that they were a strong professional, and they did a job well, and they were dedicated to making sure that their organization was doing a good job. That's been called character, I think, that quality. So, servant leaders, to put those two words together, you might hear the word servant and think of it as being a wimp or somebody that gets walked all over. But really, when you combine these two words, it's quite the contrary. One writer said that it's more like the image of a loving pit bull. I don't know. I haven't liked pit bulls as dogs too much, but I like them when I hear about this. And I have met some ones that I liked. But that's what this guy said, that a loving pit bull is what a servant leader is more like than a wimp. Because true leaders have learned the secret of both accomplishing tasks that need to get done while building good relationships. And that's what we need to do. Great organizations are a group where everyone is a leader and where everyone is taking co-responsibility for what we're doing here. So do you like that about our group here? You know, everybody is a co-leader taking co-responsibility. about what we're doing here. And I have felt that growing amongst us over time. And I'm really happy because I think it's like a seed that has to be planted, that could actually happen here, that it's possible to have that kind of a group in the midst of our dominant society being a completely different way. And as we've planted that seed's starting to grow. Do you agree? Yes, and I see it amongst us, But I just wanted to give a shout out to some of our servant leaders who've been holding down the fort here, in a sense, for a long time, as the rest of you have come and gotten this view and this idea that this could really happen here. So I just want to have us say yay or clap or shout or whatever you want to do for, first of all, Roy and Marge Sutton. Servant leaders of the most high kind. And then I want to give a shout out for Donna Corso because she is amazing. We got here really early this morning, and I thought ahead of everybody else we got here so early. And who was here? Donna. She was already here, already setting up. Yeah. And how about Jane? Jane is amazing. She does so much on Sunday and behind the scenes. So many of you.
How about
And-
Candace?
And Candace, yes, Candace. All that she's done around organizing through the years. And how about Arlene? Arlene has done so much through the years, serving on the board for many years. How about Richard? Faithful for many years. Richard's been doing the music long before I ever got here. How about David? David's been doing the music a long time along with Richard.
How about Jay?
And Jay, yes, our sound guy Jay, and the other sound guys like Alan and Jay. Thank you. How about Norma? And I just look out there and see so many of you. I could name every one of you in all different ways. All the board members, yes, so many volunteers. But here we are, a small but potent group. And so I want us to think about today the honing of our potency. And when we say to ourselves, we're only here for God, what does God want us to do next? What is God calling us, Unity in Ashland, with our small but potent life force energy to do next? So we're going to have an annual meeting in July. We haven't announced the exact date of it yet, but it'll probably be mid-July, and I hope many of you are here, not traveling, that you can come together. And in the past, we've had it just for a short time, like right after church, but I'd like to have it for a whole afternoon. And I'd like to do this thing that's used in organizations that's called the 360 review process. Have any of you ever done that before in your workplace? Well, it's a way of questioning ourselves to find out what we're doing well and what else we could do, what other things we could do to improve ourselves. So I think it would be really cool if we could come together and take some time to do this 360 review process of ourselves. And one writer said that we could apply the 3 F's to ourselves. And it doesn't mean flunking. No, it doesn't mean that. It's not about A or F, okay? The 3 F's are, what's our foundation, getting feedback, and then letting there be friction. And so this is what it means a little bit more deeply. The foundation is to review with each other what's the standards that we've set together and get clear together on the principles of leadership that we are operating upon. Okay, so we get clear on our foundation together. And then feedback, then together we identify the gaps. Where are we not meeting our standards? Where would we like to do better? And then the friction part is once you identify the gaps, then set about to heal or eliminate them by actually talking with each other and opening up. And they call this process opening the kimono. Opening the kimono. And letting be seen what's underneath, you know, amongst each other in our group here, you know? Like we have nothing to hide. In other words, we can open to one another and we can improve what we're doing. And we've been through this on the board before in different times, like Roy led us in a really great process like that a few years ago, where we really look with more detail at what we're doing and then what comes next. So I think that would be a great annual meeting and a great way to build community more deeply with one another, because we can get to know each other's needs and wants, and what we are feeling is what God is asking of us next. So Vince Lombardi, the late great Green Bay Packers football coach, and all you men, you need to appreciate this because I don't very often use sports analogies. I don't know if you even like the Green Bay Packers, but Vince Lombardi, I remember him. And he said to his teams through the years, he said, "Gentlemen, we are going to relentlessly pursue perfection, knowing full well we will not catch it because nothing is perfect. But we are going to relentlessly chase it because in the process we will catch excellence." Isn't that great? And I think that's what we're doing here, you know, like we're continuing to chase after perfection, that sense of completion, completeness, because we know that if we do that, we will become excellent. So I've been chasing excellence in many large and small settings, work settings and home settings and all different settings, I think, as you have all my life. And I think you've been chasing excellence too. And right here, I've been engaged in the pursuit of excellence for almost 10 years in Unity in Ashland. Isn't that cool? 10 years. So this summer in August, we're going to have a 10-year celebration. We're going to do some kind of big party, maybe in the park or something, with a big blowout celebration of 10 years. So we're going to do that annual meeting first, you know, and reassess everything. And then in August, we're going to do a big 10-year celebration of Unity in Ashland, and us, all of us who've been involved, and maybe call forth a lot of those who have been and aren't here right now. So you, my spiritual friends, are the servant leaders with whom I've been privileged to undertake this noble task of having a spiritual impact on one another's lives and on this community of the Rogue Valley, and I believe on the larger world. Through each one of us as servant leaders taking co-responsibility, I believe the world has been changed in these last 10 years and will continue to change through us. Do you? Yes. I'm really thankful to be with you. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Yeah. So just look around the room for a minute. You know, I know you're sitting, but just turn around, look around the room for a minute and realize we're beautiful, wonderful people, and we are the ones we've been waiting for. And what I'd like to do now is a little different than the typical thing that we do, and that is that I'm going to pass out these are all different quotes from the Tao Te Ching, and I want you to get into groups of about 3 or 4, and each take one in your group. Start passing them around. So one amongst 3 to 4 people. And have one person in your group read it to each other. And then just have a little talk amongst yourselves. What you think it means. And maybe why you got this one. And how it applies to your life, how it applies to our group. And so while we're passing these out, I'd like to double task here and also have you be getting out your offering and take the offering as these get passed out and around. Thank you for doing this, and when you're ready, please draw yourselves back into the other seating configuration. And if you'd like to keep, if someone in your group would like to keep that writing, you can keep it. Oh, I love to hear all of your wonderful, deep conversations. Why don't you give, if you want to give one another a hug or just thank you. And now, just settling in for just a moment. Just want to lead you in a short concluding sealing of this, like they talk about the Holy Spirit seals in some good work, you know. So just close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath and feel yourself grounded there in your chair, and know that you are better for having been here today, because you are important. Your life is important. What you are doing is important. Change takes leadership. Transformation takes leadership. And you are a leader in our world at this time. Claim your leadership. In leading, you take the long view. In leading, you think with and for the good of the whole. You take the wide view. Believe in your own leadership abilities. Believe in your own leadership abilities and step forward wherever you can see to step forward, knowing that you are a leader. You're a leader for our times. And bring to awareness now your involvement with unity. Unity, the word unity. You know, it doesn't just mean our gathering here, but that word unity as a thing that's happening on our planet right now, and then also the microcosm of what we're doing here. And recall your commitment to unity. Realize yourself as bringing about unity. And be present with the challenges before us. Breathe. Breathe. Remember who is within you. Remember with whom we share this care. The divine, beloved creator of this universe is within you. Remind yourself of the contribution that you are here to make, the creative approaches that you are imagining. Bring all of this into your awareness right now. And know that you have everything that you need. Yes, you do. You have everything that you need to bring your visions through into manifestation in your lifetime. Isn't that great to realize? But one more thing. We need each other. We need each other. Breathe. And just bring to mind right now those with whom you are collaborating in your life right now. Your allies, your friends, your helpers. And be thankful for them in your heart. be so thankful that you've been the kind of leader that has brought forth these friends that care. They're sitting right here in this room. Every one of you has these friends in this room. Bring them into your awareness right now, into this magical space. Take some time right now to breathe in and share the energy that is present in this room. Imagine honoring this particular quality of energy, honoring it right now. As we've just done a little bit of clapping for each other, but deeply in your heart right now, honor the quality of energy that's in this room, that's in these people here. Do an imaginary ritual right now in your heart, like maybe give every one of them a flower, maybe give every one of them a kiss on the cheek, every one of them a hug or a candle. Just imagine doing a ritual right now to every person in this room, thanking them for being a servant leader in these times, for coming to earth right now to do what we're here to do. And as you breathe deeply right now, just sense the atmosphere in this room. It's an atmosphere that is ignited with inspiration. We're in a field of energy that invites and ignites and surrounds every one of you to be your servant leader self. It's infectious. It's like sparks sparking off of you and igniting one another. They're flying between you right now, these sparks. I can see them. Together we are inspiring one another. Sparks meeting and something entirely new coming into being. Sparks are flying and things are getting fired up here. It's in the air. Being creative together, discovering together, and being in amazement together at what's coming out of us. So in these last few moments together, open your heart to this divine inspiration of who you are, of how you're here to serve God in yet an even newer, greater way. And that you've got all these playful, creative people sitting right here next to you to take on the next project. We all creative beings. Creativity, inspiring and flowing amongst us. And so it is. We are better for coming together and loving one another. And David is going to, with Richard, close our time together with a song that is just perfect for everything we've been talking about. I know you're going to love it.
You all know this song. And I want you should sing along if you want to. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a birds fly beyond the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I? You can.
So instead of getting into the big circle today, what I'd like you to do is stand. Oh. And ground yourself by feeling your feet. And breathe deeply and say to yourself, I am a servant leader. And then look around the room and say, you are a servant leader. You are a servant leader. And I am honored to be with you. I am honored to be with you. Go in peace. Go in peace. See you at the Blue.